everybody. Thanks for hanging in with us this morning. I was talking to my brother early this morning, and we just decided that we wanted to jump on live. And I asked him, "Hey, why don't you belong to or add in with MSAD Conversations?" Man, he said, "Hey, let's just go ahead and do it." Not like we ain't got anything to do today, but it's so much that we can add and we could that we can share. Today we're talking about childhood trauma, and how it affects us here in the future. Not going through a whole lot of stuff, but just to allow us all to be aware. I'm here, Patrick Graham, and of course he's Dr. Paul Graham, and we will begin as soon as possible. What I want you to do right now is to share this with someone. Share this with someone because someone might need it today.
Welcome to Managing Stress, Anxiety, and Depression, the MSAD podcast, a production of Critical Mental Health. You're listening to Patrick Graham, who specializes in trauma healing and expresses a love for mental health management. Join us as we explore expert interviews, personal testimonials, and evidence-based discussions that empower you to take control of your mental health journey. Whether you're experiencing challenges with cognitive health or simply passionate about mental wellness, there's something here for everyone. Let's get started.
So, yep, let's get started. Hey, Peas, what's going on?
Hey man, how you doing? I was calling you to have breakfast with you, but I don't think you do what I do. I don't think you do
No,
what I
no. And don't get me wrong. I know that you're a Starbucks guy, but there's a lot of there are a lot of hot drinks or that beverages there that don't have.
Why are you stammering? Why are you
That
stammering?
don't, I just don't drink.
Just say
I
that you're
don't.
not a Starbucks guy. Just
I'm
say you
just
don't do
not.
Starbucks.
I'm just not. It
Okay.
has nothing to do with anything else, but it has everything to do with I just can't do caffeine. Caffeine would, if I drink caffeine, I won't be, even if this morning, I won't be able to sleep tonight.
Oh wow. Well, there's not a lot of caffeine in here. Not even a little bit of caffeine. I don't
Well,
drink caffeine drinks.
Paul, I know that
It's a
we're,
chai. It's a chai. It's a chai.
I,
It's a
I know
chai.
that we're twins, but even in that, in being twins, our bodies react different to different things. I mean, I can't do caffeine. That's just the bottom line. I can't do it. And you know what else? Let me just say how the mind goes, P. That just because I know that caffeine is there, it could be a non-caffeinated thing.
It messes with your mind,
Yep.
thinking,
It would just tell my brain right away, like, something is, out of whack or whatever. I'm just asking everybody, please share this with someone today as we have this conversation. How did you sleep?
me? I slept well, man.
Because I know
But
you get up,
I get up 4:30 every morning. That's the issue.
right? Because
You know,
you're still doing your
Bible boot camp. But
Bible
even
camp.
if I'm doing Bible boot camp in the mornings, I'm still getting up at 4:30. So I got to find something outside of worship to do when I get up.
At
Seriously,
4:30.
outside of worship. Yeah.
Like, give me an example. Just help me out here. What do you mean?
Yo,
Just give me an
listen,
example.
listen, man. I'm that kind of guy that gets up and start cleaning, man. You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah. That is you.
You know,
That is you.
I'm still in this mode right now of decluttering
Mm-hmm.
my house, like, because I
Mm-hmm.
like when I go to certain people's homes and I don't see stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
It's just stuff like, and I'm not trying to be funny. I know I don't want your wife to get on me, but I like walking into your kitchen. I love it.
Well,
You know,
I think one of the things that we have decided is that middle floor or that main floor
mm,
will, especially now that the kids are gone, you know what I
right?
mean? I think that, you go upstairs now. I have like a chair that's there that has like,
Oh no, don't say that, please. Don't
I
don't
take off something and I just drop that
don't,
thing right there,
don't say it, man. Do you realize that Daddy? We didn't learn that from Daddy.
No, Daddy
Dad
always
always
hung up
put
his
his clothes
clothes.
up.
Yep.
He always hung his clothes up, and it's crazy because he had an armchair
Yeah.
right there by the chair that when in his room, and his clothes were never on there.
Yes, true. His clothes was never on there. He always
But
hung up
listen,
his
man, if
clothes.
I took a picture of my couch upstairs in my room,
Yeah.
as Mama would say, "Hell, George," it's
And I get it.
ridiculous.
I get it. I really get it. And it's funny that we're talking about things of the past because one of the things that I've learned is that and Paul, this actually this started to come out in the late '90s. that many of our behaviors that we see now is based on childhood traumas, little things that have happened in your childhood. And I think some of us are like afraid to to to
Well, confront
admit,
it,
or
to deal,
confront is a
confront it.
good word. Confront it is a good
Hmm.
word, because a lot of people feel that, there's someone to blame, or I'm going to blame my parents, or I'm going to blame where I went to school, or I want to blame, all these type of things that we want to put in that place. But a lot of behaviors that we exhibit in our adult years are things that have happened in the past, and this is just a finding in the late '90s that have come out. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I think a lot of things in your past dictates your present, but it doesn't have to dictate your future.
it does not
You know,
have to. You're correct.
it
It
does not have to. But
does
a
not
lot of
have to.
times, again, we're at a place where we think we don't notice it.
Hmm.
We don't put blame on anything. And I think the scary word that we use all the time is the word blame.
Yeah.
We run away from
Yeah.
identifying what happened because you're afraid it's going to blame your uncle, it's going to blame your aunt, it's going to
Right.
blame your brother, it's going to
Sure.
blame you. And it's not really blame, it's just really holding your past accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and really and truly, there's nothing wrong with it if you want to find yourself at a place where you want to get better. I mean, isn't it so, Pizzo, that we want to do better in life when it comes to high blood pressure, when it comes to cholesterol. I always talk about that, right? Or
Yeah.
when it comes to bodybuilding. I've seen men start bodybuilding at 60 years old.
I've seen it back 50,
Yeah.
54, 55. I see them going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I see them start jogging, bro.
That's
Like
right. That's
jogging,
right.
like
That's
doing
right.
2 miles jogging every day.
That's right.
you know and
That's
and
right.
I also realize that some people like me, I'm always afraid of my ticker gonna go out while I'm midway. You know what I'm saying?
And Paul, hold on. Let me tell you something. And I know that we laugh about that, but that was a problem that I had also. And sometimes I wonder, what is it that makes us frightened, or where does that fear come from? And can I tell you where I think it came from?
Mm.
When we were young, we went to James Beard Park on a church trip. We were all on a church trip.
I know exactly what you're going to talk about.
And there was this young gentleman who they were playing soccer on the field, and he while playing soccer, he
Just
died.
collapse.
He collapsed and he
Collapse.
died. I could remember as children, and all of us as children, not just us, but those who were at the picnic. Remember, we used to have some grand picnics in the
No,
summertime.
I was talking about it to this church the other day. We're
Hmm.
talking about 4 and 5 buses that used to go. No
That's
one
right.
drove to a
That's
picnic.
right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? No
That's
one
right.
drove. They used to keep their car parked, right?
Correct. At the
They used to keep their
church.
car parked at the
The
church
church, and wait
and
till you come back.
jump on a bus.
Hmm. Hmm. And we spend. I think about that sometimes. I mean, sometimes you think about, why is it that when you exercise or when you exert energy, you feel like you're going to die. So a lot of people don't do it because they're afraid that they're going to get hurt if they do it. I think that was one. I also read a book. Oh man, I hate talking off the top of my head like this, but I read a book, and she was a Facebook executive, and her husband had gone downstairs or whichever to work out, and he died on the treadmill, and there was nobody there with him. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or else he would have been able to scream out or shout out or recover from it. And there was a long time after that I said, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym, because if anything should happen to me, there are always people in the gym, right? Instead of working out in your house. And those are the type of fears that come from something in the past, not necessarily childhood, but there are certain things that have that show up in our childhood based on that. Could you remember some things that we have gone through growing up that could cause that could cause a
So,
change, something negative,
well,
adverse?
I'll tell you this. When you hear the stories of our little cousin in Jamaica, who he lived through it, but he was in the bottom of the water
Yeah.
for minutes, right? Until
Long,
somebody had to
yeah.
go and get him.
Yeah.
right? Those are the things that say that where you say, I'm not going to
Swim.
I don't want to learn. I don't want to swim.
Learn how to swim. Yeah.
I don't
And
want to learn to swim. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And that's something that's frightening, man. You know, as a kid growing up, or just growing up in a neighborhood where a lot of gunfire is
Sure.
going on.
Sure.
It's frightening. There's a lot of little things that you can talk about that just because you're getting older doesn't mean that you grow out of something.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that the negative mindset for us is that we believe that because time has passed, that is irrelevant in our minds.
That's right. Paul, you're exactly correct. And it's not. It still festers. It's still there. It's still buried somewhere. I could remember our uncles. Our uncles, they came from Jamaica young, and they used to live on the bottom floor. We used to live in Maple Street, 596 Maple Street, right? Down in Crown Heights. And I remember gang fights. I could remember mom shouting out the window that she's gonna call the police because they were gang fighting in the middle of the street.
Yeah,
Bucky, you
or
remember that?
calling. Oh yeah, or calling us to come inside when we were because our mom, I mean, our window used to be over where the mini school is and
That's
the
right.
playground.
Sure.
So she would call out to tell us to come inside. If you see this argument happening
Hmm.
and starting, she would say, just come
Come
inside,
inside. Yeah, come
or
inside.
even on the steps to come inside.
Yeah, and she
And
had a little shout too that would
mhm,
let us know, hey, it's time to come inside.
right, right.
It's weird though. It's weird though that
But you still have that trauma pack. When you hear people argue, and you're like, you know,
well,
it's still triggering.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say this, and then we get back to the triggers. That being like a behavioral studying behavioral subjects now, it made me more grateful to God for salvation. You understand what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Because I
Hmm.
think the mind is so complex that that God gives us grace and mercy because of the way that we grew up, or because of what we digest in this world. I no longer look at whether if you're bad, you're going to heaven, or you're good, you're going to heaven, and this, that, and you're going to heaven. Which, by the way, there's another trauma, all right, that we that people go through. So now I realize that the gospel is deeper than what it is. It's deeper than good and bad, good and bad. The grace of God covers you even within the mental crisis that you may go through and things that you have not yet uncovered.
Right. Oh, sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. It's weird, but it's what it is. But I go back to that. I could remember that. I could remember them fighting. I could remember these little things, and I'm not saying that we should sit here and pour out all negative things, but those type of things really change the way, or determines your behavior. And I like what you said in the beginning, that it can be changed or it can be turned around. I don't know. I don't know. In 1974, that means we were 4 years old, right?
Hmm.
Grandma died in Jamaica,
Right.
and of course, we didn't know her like that. I can't remember her, but I knew this, that you could tie in the behavior of Dad throwing out my wooden horse the day he was leaving.
Oh yeah. It was it a lamb? Was it a
No,
lamb?
Gary had the lamb. Gary had
Oh.
the little lamb. And remember, he had
Hmm.
taken pictures. He has a picture of himself with the little lamb. I had a wooden
Right.
horse, a wooden rocker horse.
Right. That broke.
It
Like the
broke.
spring broke.
The
Right.
springs broke on it, and Dad had put it out the same day that he was leaving. So now I know the date, or around the time now, that Grandma had died because of the day that he threw that out. You see what I'm saying? And so
Hmm.
it's like you can tie in situations that have occurred to know that anytime I see a horse, a wooden horse, by the way, or remember out in Pitkin Avenue, they used to have these horses. You put a quarter in, and you can ride the
And it
horse.
just it rocks.
Like,
Yeah.
even if I passed by those, and some of those in the mall, I could remember that Grandma had died during that time just because of
So
that.
I guess the question would be: is it traumatic? Was it traumatic for you, or something that you just remember?
But, I think when we hear the word traumatic, we think of something huge, and it can be too, Paul. I mean, what is something that's traumatic is really an overwhelming event. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's an overwhelming event. I think sometimes we look at certain things and we look at it as an adverse thing, but and yes, and it just as well could be. Because when you start to think about trauma, you think about things like abuse, you think about like neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. I think that even though dad throwing that away is not him being emotional, I mean, causing that, but the situation is no matter what happened, you had to throw out that horse, Paul.
Well, listen, man, I can't say that because I still have my daughter's horse on the top of my but it's mine. It's
No,
not
no,
my
I
daughter's,
agree.
right?
I
It's
agree.
right, right,
Maybe
right.
it's
I
the
mean,
way you
I'm
throw it
thinking,
out. Maybe it's the
right.
way
Yeah,
you throw it out.
I think if I took it and I threw it out, right, while she was still enjoying it,
Right. Right.
right, because you were still playing on it,
Sure.
you were still playing on it broken.
Yeah.
You see where I'm coming
That's
from?
right. That's right.
But for me, she's outgrown it. She's 21,
Right.
you know, and I still have her horse. Hold on, you see where my finger is?
Yeah. I see it. I see
You
it.
see that right there?
I see it.
That's the horse right there,
That's the horse. I see it. I see it,
right
Paul.
there,
I see
right?
it. I see
I,
it.
I still I have I still have it, but it's for me because if I threw it out, she won't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not traumatic for her. But
Sure.
I tell you what, if I took her car and I said, look, man, I don't like the way you're doing so I pay for it, I'm keeping it. That'll be traumatic.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. How about
Right.
P's moving? How about when we move? I know I don't want to use the word traumatic, but I know that it could be stressful. All of our friends were in Crown Heights on the block. Something that we were all just simply were used to. Matter of fact, all of our family, because Mama had lived downstairs, our uncles had lived downstairs. We were all like it was a village.
It was traumatic because I felt wow. I don't know if I want to use the word traumatic, but as you've said, that traumatic doesn't have to be.
It could be an overwhelming
It's
event.
life. It was life changing,
It sure was.
and
It sure
and
was.
and even though it was for our good, I don't
Right.
think I was ready for the life change.
Me either. Me either.
Where you left a school who had totally Caucasian teachers,
Yeah, you're right.
but then you end up going to a school where there was totally Caucasian students and Caucasian teachers.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Um,
They had moved us to a
and
Jewish neighbor. Our parents had moved to a Jewish neighborhood.
that's right. And then to be the only black person on the block,
That's right.
you
We were the
know,
only black family.
right. It was traumatic in that sense where mom and dad knew what was best for us.
Right.
The timing was correct,
Sure.
but the adjustment wasn't, your parents didn't say, how do I help you adjust? Right. Your parents didn't say that. They said, yo, listen, you have a backyard now.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
Gary, you have your
Your
own
own
room.
room now. That's right.
Right.
And we had a
This,
whole
this
big basement, a whole huge basement downstairs
yeah,
that we
that you
could
could,
do.
you don't have to ride your bikes outside anymore. You
Yeah,
can ride
right.
your
You can
bike
ride
inside of the
inside,
house. Right.
which we were, and roller
When
skating.
you think
We were
about it,
roller skating in the house.
that's right. When for them, you for our parents at that time, and maybe the way we probably why we went the total opposite with our children is being able to say, I did this for you.
Right.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
You understand where I'm coming
Yeah.
from? That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
When you think about the fact that, okay, your parents don't have to park their cars on the street anymore,
That's right.
right? You don't have to look for a street. You have
That's
a
right.
garage.
That's right.
You had a choice of parking. And then we left a place where you had to lock your doors, lock your windows. We moved into a place where you don't lock your doors,
Peace, there were
your
days we
windows.
left the front door open. And that when I say
In the middle of the
open,
night.
I'm talking about open, storm door open, everything open, windows down in the car,
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so people may say, man, that's a good life. But the change is so quickly. It's great to leave from here, get on a plane and fly to Jamaica, right? It's
Sure.
beautiful. But you don't want to land on a nosedive.
Sure.
You know what I'm
No,
saying?
you're right.
You know?
Benjamin is asking us how old we were at that time.
We had turned 8,
Yeah, because
right? We had turned
1978. Yeah.
1978. We turned 8.
Right.
It was the May, and then we turned 8, right, in June.
Okay, so
So
we were 7.
right.
We were
We were
7 and
7
then
and then
turned
turned
8 in
right.
June at that time, moving there. But, like we said, but let me tell you something, Peace. Our parents did for us, when we were looking for houses, they took us with them.
Oh yeah.
They never went on
The-
their own. Because I remember we were looking at houses in Queens. It was almost like a nice ride because we will always get on the Belt Parkway, right, and drive down the
yeah.
Belt Parkway. And driving down the Belt Parkway was a big deal. I bet you
Very
don't
big
remember
deal.
what we used to call the highway.
Don't come on,
I bet you
man.
don't
Come on, come on.
remember what we used to
I
call the
remember,
highway.
man.
There was
And you can't even write down the word. It's called the running down. Yeah, Dad must have thought we were crazy back
yeah,
there talking about, yo, we're going on the running down.
yeah, the running
That's what we
down.
call the
We
highway. Oh
called that
yeah.
the highway when we were growing up. And when we saw the big houses, we called them. I bet you don't remember when we saw the big houses in Queens. What did we call them? I can remember. We called them the pig houses. Pig,
The what?
pig houses.
Oh, from
From the
I
three
guess it's like
the three
from the
little
three little
pigs. When
pigs that
you
they went to upstairs
yeah
and all that kind
upset
of stuff. Okay.
right this
Yeah.
little piggy, and so we used to call them pig houses. But we go through certain things, and I'm gonna call these situational, but it does affect how what happens in the future. What happens as I think about going into our uncle's apartment, and he always had pictures with the lady with the afro with her boobs hanging out, and what happens to a child's mind when they see that, or they see calendars. I remember it's all our uncle's house, right? You see calendars of nude women. What does it do to a 6, 7, 8-year-old child? We wouldn't call that. See, we wouldn't call that sexual abuse piece. We wouldn't call it that.
Well,
But
what we call it now is a level of inappropriate exposure.
well,
You know what I'm saying?
but in some way, it could still be considered to be sexual abuse, Paul.
Well, now,
Well,
well,
sure,
because we
sure,
Uncle, when we used to go get our hair cut,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, our uncle let us run in the back,
That's right. That's right.
right? So when Uncle Ren let us run in the back, we're 12, even 13 years
It's
old
true. It's
in the
true.
back.
It's true.
No other person can come in to get their haircut and go in the back,
Right. We were the only ones
right?
that because
Right.
his nephews.
So
Yeah.
we go in the back, and there's magazines.
Right.
There's
Right.
no men there was no shame about it.
Right.
They look at you at 11, 12 years old. You need to be looking at this.
Yeah,
You
right.
know what I'm
It's
saying?
true, Paul. You're right about that.
We never they never hid anything.
Right.
They never did any of that. Even at
Right.
Dad's job, where
Hmm.
Dad's job was at,
That job was
the
that.
lot.
Hold on one second, Paul. This chaplain Makiba. Hey, she said, "Hey, twins." Paul. She said, "Hey,
Hey,
twins." Yep.
Makiba's a
That.
chaplain.
She's a chaplain. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. She's in
right.
ministry. Yeah. Go ahead. What you were saying, Peace. When we used to go to
Even on
Dad's
Dad's
spot.
job, right? Dad's job. Now, when we went there was no magazines or whatever, but the other individuals that had lockers, you open up their lockers and there's pinups,
That's right.
you
Their
know.
pinups. Correct. Correct.
And
I wanna put on what Ben said just now, Paul. He said, Paul, can you see the writing? Can you see that?
yeah,
You said, like you guys said, it's interesting how things have changed. Ben saying that he never had to move, but tons of decisions that were made for the family that affected his sister and himself, and we were told just to suck it up. Overall, it was for the greater good of us as a family unit, but we just had to adjust. And he's right about that. He's right about that. And some of the things that possibly you do now, Ben, with your own kids is basically the same thing. Hey, get it together. We know best. But I know, Paul, we're talking about childhood trauma. These are more situational type of things, but there are things that occur in our lives, and others have gone through certain things in their lives that will cause you to be where we are as adults. I mean, we've heard it before, we've seen it before. one thing I know that we've never have gone through physical neglect or emotional neglect. I can tell you that. I just know that when you have adverse situation and too many adverse situations, it can cause a behavioral change, or it can cause so many different things. I mean, it's hard for us to even go into what it is. But there are some of our listeners, if you don't mind me going out here real quick, Paul, there are some of our listeners that as a child you have gone through physical abuse, you've gone through emotional abuse. Do you know that even the way we treat our siblings, how our parents treat our siblings, like favoritism, etc., all of that, it's the emotional abuse that you go through. And like we said, sexual abuse, the first thing we kind of think of is, the father and the daughter, or the mother's boyfriend, or etc. But sexual abuse across the board, it could be an older, it could be peer to peer, could be sexual abuse, cousins. It could be next door neighbors. It could be, there when you're looking at sexual abuse, there's a long list of what it can be. But because of TV, because of entertainment, etc., we always see just the one side of it when it's actually can be bigger than that. Let me just go through this real quick. You also have what they call household dysfunction, mental illness. Paul, we have been through this. Incarcerated relatives can cause a dysfunction even within yourself.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
In fact, it makes you afraid of authority.
of course,
And
course,
authority is any authority.
of
You
course,
know,
of course. Even divorce, P's, is a household dysfunction, or a mother or a father treated. You gotta say it now, right? A father treated violently. Your parents treated violently. And another one is substance abuse. It's there. It wasn't our parents, though, but we have grown up with substance abuse in our family.
uh, not a lot, but man, but
It's
definitely close. But definitely close to us.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely close to us. I can't sit there and name about 5, 6 people, but substance abuse in our family was also, and I'm going to put it this way, was not just someone being spiraling out of control, stealing things and what have you,
sure,
because
right,
that's what we've had.
right,
But how about the issue of people in our family who abused marijuana,
yeah,
uh, especially at the time when it was not legal?
right,
You know,
right,
and that being done around you,
sure,
and the pressure of when is it my turn to use this?
sure.
Do you
You're right.
understand where I'm coming
You're
from?
correct. You're correct.
Because our family never pressured us to
No,
do anything.
no,
You know,
no. You're right about
um,
that. You're
but
right.
it does bring about a level of trauma,
Hmm.
as even in this age.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
sure, sure. It does.
For-
Sometimes I even when I think about how we call it corporal punishment. Don't forget that we've had that at home and at school while we were growing up. All right. And these
yeah.
are all authority figures that we have had in our lives. And right now, we would never consider any of our teachers, uh, you know, handing us the ruler. Or we had a teacher that had a belt. We called it Blackie. There's so many, you know, th- there are ways that we got spanking back then that we can't do now, right?
That's right.
And
You go to jail.
Paul, what our teachers used to do to us in a handsome place will be considered assault.
Uh, I mean, listen, all of them would be in jail, even the ones that shouted at us. Shouted at us, yeah. Let me tell you something, man. And it's funny, right? Because um, when we think of this kind of punishment, getting spanking, getting as we call it, beaten, or you know, we look at it now, and many of us will say it didn't do us any harm,
No, 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 no. We could
right?
say that, piece. We could say that. And
I
this,
think sometimes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, go.
I think sometimes we do a detriment to this generation because we knew that getting a spanking hurts,
Sure,
so we don't want to get hurt again. So it puts us in a certain it sets us in a certain direction.
sure.
But I think that the mistakes that we have made in this generation is that instead of the spanking, we give something that they can handle, but don't learn a lesson from.
Right.
You know,
Peace.
and I think that that's a level of trauma to our children because then when they get older, they feel like there's no accountability for what they do.
Right,
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
right.
And that's traumatic.
Yeah,
It's traumatic.
you're
The
right.
lawyers can't tell me anything. The cops can't tell me anything. The teachers can't tell me anything. I got to look for a loophole to be free.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think there's a level of trauma there where many of us look back in our age and say that was traumatic for me to get beaten
Sure,
all the time.
sure, sure.
I don't go to bed on time, I get beaten. If I don't finish my food, I get beaten. If I don't do my homework, I get beaten. If I soiled my clothes that children do all the time, I
Mm,
get beaten.
right, right.
So it's
Yeah,
like half a dozen in one
yeah.
and
And
six in the other or
and
whatever.
and what it will cause us to do, and studies is even showing now that it's a matter of shame. If you wet the bed, or if your underwear is dirty, or whichever. There's so many different studies that is now coming out as being the blame, or for behaviors, being disciplined, I should say, being disciplined, and what has come out of it. You and I could turn back now and say, "Oh, I'm grateful they did that," because we probably would have been out in the street if our parents didn't discipline us, or whichever. I have to say this: as I was thumbing through the Adventist Home, the book, The Adventist Home, just thumbing through it. It's been a while since I've read it again. That the principles of the Adventist Home still last. I'm talking about the book by Ellen G. White. I don't have a problem in disciplining your children. I don't have a problem with that. I think it's always the how, though. I think the how is the most important piece of the pie. I think
Hmm.
I think that none of us have ever looked at being disciplined by our parents. Let's call it this, right? In we call it beating, or you call it spanking, or whatever. None of us look at it as anything good, right? I don't think my parents love me because they spank me. I didn't think my teachers love me because they want me to learn. You know what I mean? I don't think that. I've never thought that at all. It's always some type of negative effect that comes along
But
with
yeah,
that.
frustration. I'm teaching
Hmm.
you how to do the math and you're not doing it right. You're gonna get a beating for it.
That's
It's
right.
I told you to clean your room, but you didn't listen to me, so you're gonna clean. I'm not beating you so that your room will be clean.
Right.
I'm beating you because you didn't listen to me when I told
Listen,
you to
yeah.
clean your room. You
Right.
understand where I'm coming from?
Right.
It's everything comes out of frustration.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I believe that we'll get even if you get beaten because you said, "Listen, if you steal, and I'm going to spank you, I want you to change your behavior."
Right.
But you have some people that say, "I beat you because you're not going to embarrass me in the future."
Right.
everything
Right.
everything
Right.
comes
Right.
back to
Right.
that person.
A lot of
You
that is
know.
embarrassment, Paul. To be honest with you, a lot of that is embarrassment. When your kids come home and a teacher write a letter, your son said this, or your son or your daughter did this, that, and the other. Right? The first thing you're beating them for is for embarrassment. You understand?
Right.
Especially, let me tell you something. Especially when it's a tight knit Adventist network.
Right.
Then
Right.
well,
Or any closed circle.
sure,
Right? Because that's
being,
ours,
yeah,
right? So as
sure,
the Adventist is our close circle. But
yeah.
there's other people that live in that kind of bubble also. They live in that bubble, man. You can't look at Jamaica, right?
Hmm.
If it's not a spiritual thing, it's like you remember these words. No, man, you're not going to embarrass me in the district.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
so for us, it's the Adventist circle,
Sure.
so to speak. For people, it's in the district. So for some other people, it's you're not going to mess up my good name.
That's right. You correct. You
But the,
correct.
but what we do is add trauma
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to that
Mm-hmm.
generation or individuals because of the person that's applying the pressure
All
is
right.
applying it
Right.
simply because it's not for you. It's for them, you
Yo,
know.
Bob, our boy Bob, he said that one thing I've learned as a new father, when I discipline my son, I always follow it up with an act of love and compassion. And that's,
Man, I get it, Bob.
yep,
I get it, man.
yep. I
I
am
get
not
it, man.
gonna, Pizzo, I'm not gonna sit here and tell people not to spank their kids. You can do whatever, or not to discipline. I'm gonna say discipline, 'cause it could be either way. You know that some children don't need that. Some
Oh,
some some
sure.
could go with a hard telling, and it may consider to be just as bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't tell somebody that they should not, or what they should or should not do. I like that, Bob. I really like that, to follow up with love. And I'm not talking about this is going to hurt me more than it hurt you. That's not what I'm not talking about that at all. But you're right. You're right to be able to do that. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that when I think of some of the more deeper things that we have gone through, Paul, I don't think is one that we could regurgitate here. But one of the things that's important for us is to be able to look back and find where our parents protected us. We have to look at where they thought the best that they could do for us, because we do the same thing for our children. And I could remember even now my children telling stories and saying things like, "Oh, I remember when Dad spanked us because." Well, I'm telling you, up to this day, it made me feel bad. Dad had spanked us because I told them not to play in the at the fireplace in the fireplace. And what happened was, I smell the ashes in the house, right? So I went downstairs and I said, "Who was playing in the who was playing in the chimney? In the fireplace?" And all of them said, "Not me, not me, not me." And I said, "Somebody here lying, because I smell it in the house." And I think I spanked the three of them. I think actually I believe I spanked the three of them, figuring out that the air comes back through the chimney.
Yeah, the float.
Yeah, it comes back through the float,
Hmm.
and it comes in the house if the float is open after or whichever, right? So it blew it back in, and I thought that they were playing in it. I remember having to say to them even after that, "Guys, I apologize. I'm sorry for that." Now they can't beat you because of
No,
it,
no, no,
right?
no. Mm-mm.
But you got to get to the. I'm telling you, Paul. Up to this very day, I still think about that sometimes. I still think about
Mhm.
it, and it pains me that. Okay, so what's the problem? You thought they were going to get burned. You thought
Right.
what? What was it? So, we have to be careful that when we're growing up our children, there's a principle of love that carries with that. And there's a lot of things that our parents or your parents have gone through, that have gone through trauma, which they have brought into the next generation and then spread it from one
Mhm.
generation to the next generation. These are some of the hard things that's
It's hard.
said a hard
It's hard,
telling. I hear you,
and
Paul.
that's why sometimes we can't you know jump on our kids or jump on our adult children for
Sure.
the way they may be or this, that, and the other, because like you said, not every child needs this, but this child may.
Yeah.
Even for me, I believe that I've caused trauma on one child by the way I negatively treated another.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that we got to be really careful, how we handle individuals, because now as parents, well, not me, right? Right. Now as new parents got to ask themselves the question, how do I want my child?
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
am I willing to be a participant? And here's the scary thing, P.
Mm.
Am I willing to be a participant in discipline? Right?
Right.
Like, whatever I'm doing to this child to set them on the right path,
Right.
am I willing to walk with them in that? Am I willing to journey? A lot of disciplinary acts is not journeying with their children.
Mm-hmm.
It's you inflicting, you know, give me your phone.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the reason why you're doing it, because you know that they love it so much. Well, what if you discipline your children by simply saying, you know, I think you need time away from me, you know, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, or cleaning something,
Mm-hmm.
or cleaning something together,
Mm-hmm.
or there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of little things. There's a lot of little things that goes along with discipline
All right.
that won't cause trauma. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever you do, somebody's going to go through a level of trauma in their lives, and we just don't know who, who's the inflictor. You know what I
Right.
mean? You
Right.
know.
I just want to read this real quick. It's from my goddaughter, Stephanie. She says, having a kid made me realize for most of them, if you get down to their level, you can get through to them instead of being physical. Kobe and I, this little Kobe, and I talk out most things, and I explain to him why XYZ isn't okay and why he can't have his iPad or XYZ. He rarely gets slapped or spanked. I don't think I'll use the black belt like I got. And she's telling on Denise Paul.
I
But
know. Yeah, clearly.
but I work in childcare, so I do understand that certain kids talking doesn't work, but we still have to be mindful. Thank you, Steph. Thank you for that, and I think that was great. I think that was great that you brought
And
that
and
up.
that's she's a fairly new mother.
Yeah,
She's a
yeah,
fairly new mother.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that we're talking about situational type things and all of that, but let me just, Paul, let me just go back over this one more time for those who might need to do a deeper dive into their own life. Remember that abuse. There's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, and there is sexual abuse, right? Even as children, neglect. There's physical neglect. There's emotional neglect, and household function. It is not the child's fault that parents divorce, right? It is not a
Right.
child's fault that a parent may be a substance abuser. And you remember, anytime we think of substance abuse, Pizzo, we're thinking about things like marijuana, meth. There are prescription drugs that parents are hooked on that allow them to sleep throughout the whole day, not watching their kid. And then what that comes down to? Neglect, right? Physical
Sure.
neglect. That comes down to emotional neglect. So they all kind of have something to do with each other. Someone is going to experience at least one. I think, man, I hope I get this percentage right. I think they said at least 28% will experience one of these, but there's a high number of those that experience at least four of these, right, at the same time, because they kind of like bleed on each other.
Uh-huh.
So these are some of the things that, if you know that you have been in this, or that you were in some way going through some type of trauma of this notion, seek help, and seek help about it, because some of the things that we do in our lives now, we have to be able to look back and say, what is causing me, or what has caused me to do some of these things? Like, sometimes the behavior that we have, Paul, anger, right? Anger. Sometimes you try to figure
Hmm.
out, why am I so angry about something, and sometimes you're angry about something because of a situation that has occurred while you were growing up,
Right.
and
Right. And still angry,
still angry about it. Yep.
and still don't know how to deal with your anger.
Still don't know how to, but you can find help for that. Hey Tim, this
Mm.
is my man Tim Anderson, his brothers. Greetings to both of you. Good to see you, Tim.
Greetings, Tim. And Tim, yes, Tim, and I'll give you a buzz a little bit later. The names are coming in. I
Yeah,
just wanted you to share that with you.
yeah. So I wanted to make sure that if anyone has been going through that, just try to seek that help, because it will tell you what has actually happened. Sometimes a short fuse can cause us to be this way also.
Mm.
Oh, I got my anger from my daddy, or I got my anger from my. You don't have to be angry if you don't want to be angry. And if you find
Right.
yourself like that, it's time to seek help. Try to figure out, what is it that I'm going through, that I'd like to change in myself. And I want to put this out here for those who are listening right now, or those who, instead of going to whether you were abused or whether you went through a traumatic event, what in your life right now, right this minute, would you like to change about you? What
Mm.
would you like to change about you? Paul, for me, It'll be patience. It'll be patience.
Patience. Okay.
Natalie feels that I have extreme patience. She just feels she's like, you're the most patient person I've ever known. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know if I am. Maybe maybe I don't show it on the outside, but I'd like to be a more patient. I'd like no. Here's it. Um, I'm a knee jerker when it comes to decisions. I'll make a decision on the fly, and not think of it, and not think of the consequences until later on. I'm not asking you to go through
Okay.
yours, but I'm just saying,
Yeah, I mean, mine. I think that, and I hope I'm answering the question when I said, "What is my?" Ask that again. What is my issue that what I think I can do better? Is that what you're talking about?
yeah, I don't want to know your issues, P. I mean, I'm not
No, no,
saying it that way.
no, no.
I'm
Well,
saying,
well, you know my issues. I'm not sharing with everybody, right? I think, for me, it's recognizing that I need to trust the
hmm
future and not
hmm
believe that everything has to be in my own hands.
Oh wow,
Um,
wow,
um, right.
wow.
So, and it causes. I mean, I don't go through terrible anxiety, but
hmm
there's a level of anxiety that says, if I don't do this, now where will I be?
Yes,
If I
yes,
don't put my hand in this, then where would I be? If I don't try this, then what am I missing out? So most of mine is a FOMO, you
yep,
know, that
yep.
for me is my fear of missing out,
Sure,
and
sure, sure.
I don't know what the word is called, but if I can switch, not switch, as as I believe that I am,
hmm
I wish I was able to have a level also of self-control, which all of these are the fruits of the spirit,
Sure,
not just one, you
sure,
know.
sure.
So
And I get that 100%, P. And Carolyn is asking the question. Well, how can someone seek help? Who should they contact? Who should they speak with? Many may hear but do not know how to take that first step. You know, I always looked at therapy as a negative thing. Like if I go to therapy, that means I'm crazy.
mhm, mhm.
What's happening with me? Hold on, Carolyn, I'm coming to you. Ben said, I'm learning to say no to others or wait and not feel guilty about it. Boom, right
Wow,
there.
wow,
Right there.
wow.
I can't agree with you any more than that. I can't agree with you. I'm a grown man, and if I don't want to do something, the answer should be no. If I'm going to do something, you strive for it. I'm with you with that. How can someone seek help? Being in the mental health field right now, the best thing for us to do, number one, is to recognize that there's a problem, recognize that there's a deficiency. Once you recognize that you're deficient in something, even if your friend, your best friend, tells you, or your wife or your husband says, "Hey, this is where I am," I think the first step that or I would do is to look for someone that you can talk to. I'm not talking about your preacher. Please don't go to your pastor. He or she got problems too. That's not what it is. Even though they have a level of confidentiality, it's best for you to check and see if you have insurance for mental health,
Mhm.
and check within the insurance that you have at work to see whether or not, hey, whether my provider allows me to go to these people. Pick one. You don't have to stick with that one, but pick that person. Whether you want to see a woman, whether you want to see a man, whether you want to see someone younger or you want to see someone older, the whole key to it is that you have to pick someone and make a step. And when you get into that environment, be free to speak in that environment. Because I've said this
Mm.
before and I'm going to say it now, Carolyn and those who are listening, the therapist is not the professional. You are. Say it one more time. The professional is not the therapist. You are the therapist. So if you don't speak, if you don't cry, if you don't laugh, if you don't show emotion with your therapist, if you don't spill, then there's nothing that they will be able to do to help you along the way. They don't. Your head is not a crystal ball. So make sure you find someone. I do know that there are free services at some places. I know that. But I see you. She says EAP, Employee Assistant Program. They have that, right? Right. Very
Yeah,
good.
Gary
Very good.
talks a lot about that. Gary
Mm-hmm.
talks a lot about
Mm-hmm.
recognizing your EAP, and a lot of people have it and have not asked about it.
Correct. They don't know about they know about their regular insurances, etc. But they don't know specifically about the ones that's dealing with mental health because some of them are separate. Some of them are separate. And yes, this is even better if you're in college, and I think there are more services in college for you if you are a student in college than anything else. College students, health and wellness programs. Please, whatever you do, find yourself connected to that also, right? And it doesn't make sense for us to do a whole bunch of talking about what we have been through without saying, hey, there has to be some way for me or some way for us to be able to find a solution to it. Pizzo, let me share this too. I want to share this with everyone that that I didn't feel comfortable with my first therapist, neither my second one, Pizzo, neither my third one. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I didn't. And you have the right, just like you have a right with your doctor, you have a right with anyone to move on to the next person until you feel comfortable with them.
Hmm.
The therapist that I saw, the one that I held on to, is one that I never thought that I would. So the key is to find out there's some things that I talk about. Listen, if my therapist takes my business outside, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna
I
be a millionaire.
understand.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it is so super confidential that say anything and everything that you think, because that therapist will have the opportunity of being able to steer you in the right direction, how to change certain behaviors because of what might have happened in your childhood. Moving, like we talked about before. I know we talk about traumatic, but Paul, let me add this also. Do you know the pandemic is traumatic to the next generation that's coming, and even to some of us, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You the 2001 with the World Trade Center situation, and what happened at the Pentagon, and the planes flying into. This is a traumatic situation that have happened that has changed our lives.
Right, right, right.
It has changed our lives. So I think that what we really need to do is to be as healthy as possible. Corrine says it the best way. She says be proactive with your care, and not just your what do you call it, your care as far as your physical body is concerned, but also your mental. We got to remember this, everybody, that your mental can also disrupt or fix your physical, and physical also the other way around. All right. Hey, Monica, I'm glad for what you stated here. You said that it took 4 years for you to unpack and process in therapy. I'm a completely different person now because of it. I praise God for good therapists and advocate for it. They can change your life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it is true. There's no doubt about that can happen for you. Paul, what she just said, I'm sure you just took a look at it.
No, no.
That's
Yeah, listen, man.
4 years, 4 years to
Yeah.
break through that.
Listen, man. Let me tell you something. When you in speaking with this young lady and recognizing what she's done for her life to be where it needs to be. So I'm her former pastor, so I can't say everything, but what I can say is that seeing her health growth
Hmm.
from therapy
Hmm.
means that it works.
Yeah. And not only
It
that,
works.
P, your pastor is not your therapist. Your husband is not your therapist. Your wife is not your therapist. You should not be do therapy or to someone with someone you know. It's just not going to work that way. And look what she's talking about. I mean, I want you to see this, everybody. It took 4 years just to unpack and break through where it is. And I'm grateful for your vulnerability, because somebody needs to hear that today. I normally tell people to go to psychologytoday.com and put in your state or put in the area that you live in to find those that may be around you. she says she says my husband is my pastor. That's about it. He's my pastor. I got you. And so Paul, I thought it was necessary for us to just be able to come
She
on
said,
today
"My husband is."
as my pastor. Yeah. Just for us to be able to talk
But
about.
here's another thing. I think that she needs to be a therapist.
And it's possible there's some.
That's what
Listen,
I think.
Paul.
I'm gonna put that over her life. She needs to be a therapist,
Those of us
straight
who
off
are
the bat.
therapy, I can speak for me. One of the reasons why I decided to go into therapy is for two reasons. One, I was in youth ministries, children in youth ministries, and I felt there was a need for me to understand more in this age what our children and our young people are going through. And then it opened up a brand new world. But I also realized that I needed therapy, and I wanted to share what therapists have done for me, and it's the greatest thing of all. I also read a book that I promise you I'll share it here, or you could look it up. It says Jesus is Jesus the greatest therapist, and he is. There's one thing that I will not do is to shame or to push in the background my relationship with Jesus Christ. Not going to do it. Sorry, everybody. I know the other day, Paul, I talked about meds. Please check my page and talk about meds and my story with meds. And but above all else, I believe in a relationship with Jesus Christ that He could change all things, all things. And I have a new thing, Pizzo, that I'm working with right now because there's this thing out there that says that narcissistic people can't change. I I beg to differ now. And one day I'll have a conversation on that as I speak to some professionals about this. But I hate to think that a person can't change.
Yeah,
I hate to think that.
that's not a fair statement
Yeah,
in life in
yeah,
general. Life is about change. So when
sure.
you say that a person can't change, that's really saying that to them they're dead to a situation.
Sure, sure.
You know what
And
I'm saying?
yes,
Life
Paul.
is about change.
Yeah.
Even when someone is dead and they're not breathing, you open up their casket, there's been change in there.
That's right. So I don't want to hear that at all. And I refute. Now, I used to say that based on certain things that I have learned even in the classroom. But I no longer can look at a person and say that person can't change. Now, don't marry. So this is probably for your Monday night, Pizzo. But don't marry someone to change them. Don't think that you can change somebody. That's totally that's not going to work. But you can change. There's so many again things that we have gone through in life. We some of you have gone through, like I said before, some of you had gone through physical trauma, abuse, emotional and sexual, some physical and emotional neglect. Some have seen their parents go through a divorce or even treating each other piezo violently.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Some
A- a-
some people
Remember, it's not even it's when you talk about Pat, when you talk about violently, man, there's some people that can't take a loud shout.
that's right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And there are some, which is another conversation. Sometimes it's better for them to split up or divorce than to live together and cause more trauma on the family. Right? That's another subject all in itself.
Hmm.
We talked
Hmm.
about incarcerated relatives. We talked about, you know what? I didn't touch Pizzo.
Hmm.
What's traumatic also can be if there are people in your home that have mental illness. Some people have undetected mental illness in their own home and not realizing that they are traumatizing others who are in their homes. So
Oh,
there's so many different ways of coming through a traumatic situation, but go ahead and seek help. Find the help that you need. Sometimes you don't need weekly. Sometimes you need 2 times a week if your insurance holds until you stable out. I'll be honest with you. I see my therapist as needed right now. Sometimes once a month, sometimes twice, but as needed. And I think every pastor, because we're in the field, Paul, should have a therapist. I think that everyone should see one just to be able to say, look, let me go ahead and stable out.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue as it pertains to every pastor needing a therapist, I think that moreover, anybody who has a job or profession where their morals are tied to it
Oh, that's true too.
needs a therapist.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's true too.
don't get me wrong. I think that is always good. There's some people who have a family unit that they don't need to go to therapy. I don't think that every individual needs therapy.
Sure.
I'm
Sure.
sorry, needs to go to a
Go to therapy.
therapist. But I do believe that in life there's certain issues that people need to talk about it and to
Sure.
trust someone who you talk to, which is therapy.
Sure.
Some people's therapy is not even a person. Some people's therapy is the very fact that they have a garden outside,
That's
right?
true.
And
That's true.
or some people it's cleaning, not to a crazy degree, but just liking what you're seeing. You know what I'm saying? Some
Yeah.
people do what do you call retail therapy, which can be negative but can also be positive.
Sure. Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
I said can also be positive,
Sure.
and I think that again, when you talk about someone who's taken 4 years to unpack something,
Sure.
somebody taking 10 years to unpack something, what I've heard you say in the past, and I can say it again now, is that one of the issues that I've had is that going to therapy for 3 months or 6 months, I'm looking for a quick fix
Yeah.
when there's probably never really a fix to this thing. It's a coping mechanism to get you through.
Or you're not really accepting the awareness or the woke side of it. You see what I'm saying? You can go there, and sometimes you get there and you say, "Okay, I'm good." Hold on, real quick. Krista said my story is similar, but it's been many years. And Paul Krista is going to be on conversations because I just want her to tell her story when we come back around again. Um, Sometimes we use therapy to say that I've been there. Sometimes your job require you to go to therapy because of something that's gone wrong. Sometimes the key to it is to find yourself, is to find that inner you, and the therapist can help you do that. I say to you, Pizzo, stick to it. Even when you don't want to go. Do you know that I have been in situations where I just sat there, just spent the hour just sitting there. Sometimes it's therapeutic alone just to sit there and know that someone is in front of you, waiting for you to unload, waiting for you to cry, waiting for you to tell that story. Real quick, everyone, KB says that I went to a wonderful therapist for a year and my life started to change, and then my insurance changed and she didn't accept my new insurance. Let me say that I haven't bounced back from that loss yet. It's been over 2 years. KB, what I want you to do is to go ahead and find someone else. If you're a Christian like me, ask God to help you find that person, that therapist that's going to take the place of the one that you've lost. No doubt about it. Also check also if your insurance company will let you pay and then be reimbursed. A lot of them don't talk about that, but you can pay out of pocket, bring the receipts back, and they'll pay. Try that, KB, and see how it goes from there. But whatever you do, hold on to God and hold on to your therapist. Hold on to a therapist. Do the best that you can to get linked up to that. Corrine says that she also uses music as a therapy, something that's therapeutic. Now, Paul, I don't want us to get mixed up between gardening and music and all of that. You're going to need your human to human interaction.
Right. No, but believe me, what I'm saying is that there's some individuals who have family members that they can talk to,
Oh yeah,
that they can confide in,
sure,
that can help them.
sure,
I'm not saying it's not therapy. Do
sure,
you understand where I'm coming
sure,
from?
sure.
Um, but many people have, maybe I should put it this way, many people have found it therapeutic to do other things which have changed their mindset towards doing something else,
Sure.
towards being negative elsewhere. A lot, the Holy Spirit is amazing, where, because I'm a believer, I do believe that for many individuals who would not get uh, be told that you need therapy, you need this, that, and the other. The Holy Spirit will work it out where they'll put you in tune with individuals
Sure.
who can walk with you, who
Sure.
can journey with you,
Sure.
to help you be the better you that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
And but it is true, everyone needs a level of therapy,
Right.
some way, somehow,
No, no, no.
you know.
I agree with you. I wanted to show everyone this. Monica has says we also need to be honest with ourselves. A lot of us go to therapy to try to learn how to deal with other people. She puts us in air quotes. Then when we get to a therapist and they start unpacking our mess, or we start unpacking our mess, I know what you mean by that. We don't want to hear it. Be ready to acknowledge your part. Big capitalized there. And if you are a victim of circumstance, be ready to take accountability for how you can heal from it. I want to thank you, Monica, for that.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Man, see, I'm trying to tell you, bro.
It might be
Somebody,
time, Monica.
somebody put a 70 G's in her pocket and
It might be
let her
time.
change her.
It might be time. Listen, everybody, I want to thank you for hanging with us, Paul. I mean, there's so much we could do. I love talking to you. You know, we could talk for ages and ages, but I'm
You
thankful.
know what? Especially, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to throw it there, and I'm going to leave it alone. Especially when it comes to sexual trauma.
Sure,
I
sure,
mean, sometimes you got to ask yourself the question, why are you who you are? And I remember just very quickly that you and I went to speak somewhere,
sure,
and it was not online or anything like that. It
sure.
was not recorded or whatever, and we were able to talk to at least 300 to 400 young people, maybe a little over 300 young
Sure, I
people,
know it was a lot of young
to talk
people.
to them about some things that you were dealing with that I was dealing with also, from
Sure,
someone who is this SA, right? Is what we call it, SA, right? Sexual
abuser
abuse, what has happened to us
to us.
individually,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
by the same person,
Yeah. Hmm.
and then you find and you ask yourself, why am I this person?
Right.
Why am I this person? I'm 54. I should have gotten over that when I was
Seven,
8,
8 years old.
9.
7, 8. Yeah, you're right.
And here it is that I'm talking to you. I ain't talking about everybody else or myself. You, Patrick, you have a job again, right? Because me and you talk about this sometimes. You have a job that's linked to your morals,
Sure,
right?
I do.
Many people have jobs that are linked to their morals, and it's hard to do life always worrying about where my headspace is going or where someone's headspace is going, and you not know where that trauma has
Sure,
come from.
you're so right.
And so, therapy, as you said, stay in it,
Yeah.
and that's what I've heard today. For me, stay in
Hmm.
it.
And I
Get
will.
in it,
I
stay in it,
definitely
and keep
will.
moving forward, man.
Definitely will.
So
And
thanks. Can I
maybe.
give can I get a before you go? I have an announcement, man.
Mm,
I try to throw it out there all the time, but um nah, we'll talk about it another.
Okay.
No, my announcement is,
Listen.
I say it everywhere, man. If you're in the DMV area, you know what I'm saying? I said, if you're in the DMV area
No, no,
on
it's okay.
December 14th, man, come out and see the Aeolians. It's for free at Tacoma Park, Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yeah,
We're just looking to have a great time. That's all I want to say, because I
I
got to
got
do
you.
this for the next 25 days, bro.
I got you. I got you. I got you. Again, she's also talking about
That's it. That's it. That's
assault.
it. It's sexual assault.
We're talking about sexual
Sexual
assault.
assault.
Yep, that's really deep. Anyway, Paul, thanks for hanging out with us.
No
And
problem.
everybody, this is my new podcast, if you will, going into managing stress, anxiety, and depression. Some things we just talk about. Please, those who are on right now, I know that for you to be able to get what we're talking about on YouTube, just please subscribe to us and share this with someone who may be in a similar situation as you. I'll just ask you to support us. Paul, is called MSAD Tip Jar. MSAD Tip Jar. And the reason why I did that also is because I also feel that when we bring on certain people, goodbye now, Carolyn. When I bring on certain people, I want to be able to give them something for their time, not necessarily pay them for their time, but to give them something for their time and also to keep up with technology. Hey, everybody, just want to thank you for hanging out with us. Paul, thanks for hanging out with me. And I'll see you later on in the day, maybe a little bit before prayer meeting. And everybody, hang on with us. Huh? And God bless you. Real good. God bless you.
Welcome to Managing Stress, Anxiety, and Depression, the MSAD podcast, a production of Critical Mental Health. You're listening to Patrick Graham, who specializes in trauma healing and expresses a love for mental health management. Join us as we explore expert interviews, personal testimonials, and evidence-based discussions that empower you to take control of your mental health journey. Whether you're experiencing challenges with cognitive health or simply passionate about mental wellness, there's something here for everyone. Let's get started. We also want to take a moment to express our gratitude for your support. If you appreciate the content we provide and would like to support us as we continue delivering quality episodes, please consider making a financial contribution to msadtipjar.com. Your support, no matter the size, goes a long way in keeping this program running and accessible to everyone. Thank you for being a part of our community. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of MSAD. We hope you found valuable insights and inspiration to enhance your mental health journey. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more listeners like you. Again, thank you from the host, Patrick Graham of MSAD, Managing Stress, Anxiety, and Depression. Have a great day, and God bless you real good.